In this episode, we're going to talk about physicians and ChatGPT. Hey, Tyler Small here, and I'm super excited to talk about this article. There was another study done a year or two ago where chatbots were compared to doctors answering patient questions, and it revealed that chatbots were not only better at answering the questions, but they were far more empathetic. I think it was 9.8 times, basically 10 times more empathetic than doctors, which was really interesting because, in our minds, we're like, oh, like AI can't do doctor work. AI is supposed to be, cold and frigid. But in this case, we saw that AI was 10 times more empathetic than the doctors. That was in the last study that I looked at. And yeah, that's really, really significant. Now, still, ChatGPT cannot, sew you up, can't stitch you up if you, have a physical problem. And there's a lot of things that it can't do at this time. I'm not suggesting that AI can replace physicians. We have a major demand for physicians still. I think there's a shortage, and I'm very grateful for the physicians that take care of my family and friends. Now, I don't go to the doctor very much because I use tools like this, and I've been really lucky to have fantastic health. But physicians can be great for a lot of things. I'm not saying that we don't need them or that they can be replaced by any means. All I'm saying is that as we review this research that's being done, we should look at um, AI as a resource for these doctors, and we should look at AI as a resource for ourselves when we're asking questions, when we're getting a diagnosis, because apples to apples, when doctors are compared with AI comes up with a much better, more accurate diagnosis rate. So let's dive in. This New York Times article was written by Gina Colada, and I just want to go over it really quick. I also have pulled up here uh, the journal article. So this is published in a journal called JAMA Network. So this is a peer-reviewed journal, and it has everything here that you can see. Like this is it's a real journal. Okay, so it's not just some little rumor or something, right? And this is the New York Times, and they tend to check on things a little bit. But let's go through it. So, as the story is told, Dr. Adam Rodman, an expert in internal medicine at Beth Israel Deacon's Medical Center in Boston. So this is like not just some little, podunk clinic, right? This is a legit medical center in Boston. Do they have access to great talent in Boston? Yes, they do. So we've got MIT and Harvard and a bunch of other like really prestigious schools. Like the population there is highly educated. This is not some rural, you know off the cuff kind of thing. This is a serious area of the globe. So um, this expert, Dr. Adam Rodman, confidently expected that the chatbots built to use artificial intelligence would help doctors diagnose illness. And he was wrong, as it says here. Instead, in a study, Dr. Rodman helped design doctors who were given ChatGPT 4 along with conventional resources did only slightly better than doctors who did not have access to the bot. And to the researchers' surprise, ChatGPT alone outperformed the doctors. I was shocked, Dr. Rodman said. The chatbot from the company OpenAI scored an average of 90% when diagnosing a medical condition from a case report and explaining its reasoning. Doctors randomly assigned to use the chatbot got an average of 76%. Those randomly assigned not to use it had an average score of 74%. But what I wanted to point out here is something that's so interesting and counterintuitive to us. So, this is what shocked Dr. Radman so much. It was that he thought with that and I've seen this so many times that people think, oh, a human plus AI is going to do so much better, and that turns out not to be true. It turns out that when the human just says, AI, do it, just do the whole thing, it does a much better job. The physicians scored 94%, which is, by the way, very scary. Like, that means that over a quarter of the time, physicians are wrong on a diagnosis if this is representative. Over a quarter of the time. To me, that's insane. I'm not saying I could do a better job, but what I am saying is that yeah, they can do 2% better if they're like asking a few questions with, that's kind of how I see it. Like they assigned to use the chatbot. They're like, okay, I'm supposed to use it. Maybe they didn't use it very much, or maybe they were like, oh, like I'll inquire about a few, the things here. But what when it becomes extraordinarily useful is when you upload all the information and then you tell it to just give you the diagnosis. Like that is what we're seeing here, that when the chatbot does all the work itself, it comes up with a much better diagnosis rate. So 90%. And I mean that's what is that, 14% better? That's a huge margin. We're talking about people's lives here. How many stories do you know of somebody who they went to the doctor and the doctor gave them the wrong diagnosis, so the doctor said, I don't know, we're not sure what's going on, right? How often does that happen? And then the person, their condition progresses or it goes unsolved, and this is maddening. It's just maddening for people living in pain and confusion and discomfort. Sometimes it has to do with losing sleep. Sometimes it has to do with your work and your professional life. And so, this can have a huge financial impact on individuals and families. And I think the opportunity right now is astounding for uh, not just physicians, but for individuals to say, look, I have access to my case, to all of the information the doctor has access to, and you can ask your hospital or your primary care physician for that. That's part of the HIPAA laws. I believe anywhere you go in the United States, you should be able to ask for your medical records, and they should be able to hand that over to you within a reasonable amount of time. And that's something that will allow you to just dump that into ChatGPT. I've showed before how to do this. So if you're in ChatGPT, all you have to do is click Explore GPTs, create. It costs $20 a month to create this, and you name it. You come up with a description. You give it instructions. Click this upload button, and that allows you to upload whatever files you have, and that and then you click create, right, and it makes the GPT. Now of course you want to, in order to keep your information private and secure, go to settings and data controls, and then you improve the model. You say off, I do not want to improve the model for everyone, right? It makes sure that you don't feed your data to the model, so that locks it down in effect. Now, going back to this article, what does this mean? What does this mean? To me, it means that physicians have an ethical imperative to use AI to help them with the diagnosis, and to look at its reasoning and say, look, okay, so if it is giving a different diagnosis than the doctor, then the doctor should say, why are you giving that diagnosis? What are the things that make you think that? Because they are now not as good at the AI. Okay, so if you know you're not as good as someone else that you work with, and you're giving a huge life impacting kind of report to somebody, then you should go to that person and ask them, especially if it's like basically free. And I think this is a major ethical dilemma. People talk about the ethical dilemmas involved in using AI, but I think in this case, there's a major ethical dilemma now in not using AI. And if your physician is not aware of, or doesn't know how, or unwilling to use it, then you can do this research yourself, and you can bring that second opinion, knowing that the information that you get from a simple tool like ChatGPT is going to likely be more accurate than your own physician at home. This is major. This is an enormous, enormous fact that we need to pay attention to and further test and look into more. So let me know in the comments if you had experiences around this using ChatGPT to give you a diagnosis. I certainly have, and I've benefited from that. So let me know what your experience has been, what kinds of concerns you have. Have you talked to a doctor about this? Does your doctor use ChatGPT? Have they put in the whole medical record and then gotten useful information from that? Let me know. I'm enormously interested in the real life results that you've had outside of these academic studies that we're seeing. Thanks.